when Jan first asked me to speak, and she said the topic was nurturing, my first reaction was, what do I know about nurturing? And then I started thinking of a story I'm going to share with you about my son, Elvis. He didn't come here today because he knew I was going to tell this story. So, when he was little and we were at Hy-Vee, and you know, Hy-Vee is always very busy. And I was looking at greeting cards, and he was sitting in the grocery cart. And I said to him, Elvis, you know what I like about you? And he said, what's that, Mommy? And I said, I like that you're so patient. And then he said, you know what I like about you, Mommy? And I said, no, Elvis. I said, what's that? And he said, your nipples. The N-word in front of God and everybody. And so we went home that night, and I said, Elvis, I think it's time that we stop nursing. And he was fine with that. He said, we'll do it one more time and say goodbye. Okay. So that was the N-word, and it is not nurturing. But that is the classic image of what comes to mind when I think of nurturing, is a mother and a child. And I have a quote here from the 14th Dalai Lama. He said, from the very day of our birth, when we drink our mother's milk, compassion arises within us. This act is a symbol of love and affection. I think this act, from the very first day of life, establishes the basis for our entire life. The definition of nurturing is to sustain with food, to feed and protect, to support and encourage, as during the period of training, to bring up, train, and educate, and encourage the development of. I might add, to discipline and to challenge. So self-nurturing is very much like self-parenting, and if you're older parents, and maybe you have grandchildren now, I just want you to imagine for a moment if you could have parented your children with all the knowledge and wisdom and experience you have now, and you wonder if that would have made a difference in your parenting. Well, I'm telling you, you get to do that now for yourself. I also have a quote here from Pope Francis, and he is referred to as a master of metaphor. He said, knowing how to let children grow and go is like flying a kite. The future Pope tells a story of flying kites in his neighborhood when he was a child. There had come the moment when the kite would begin making a figure 8 and begin falling. In order to keep that from happening, you mustn't pull the string. The kids who knew more than us would scream, give it some slack, it's wobbling. Flying a kite resembles the approach you need to take regarding a person's growth. Sometimes you need to give them some slack because they are wavering. In other words, it is necessary to give them time. We have to be able to set limits at the right moment. But other times we need to know how to look the other way and be like the father of the parable, the prodigal son, who lets his son move out and squander his fortune so that he learns from experience. So as we are involved in self-nurturing, there are times when we need to set limits, and there are other times when we need to cut ourselves some slack. And I consider cutting ourselves some slack, one of the ways of doing that is quieting the inner critic and replacing those automatic negative messages with positive self-talk. The Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserves your love and affection. So I believe that our capacity to nurture ourselves determines how capable we are of nurturing others. It all starts here. The Buddha also said, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. So today I invite you to nurture yourself, be gentle with yourself, and for some of you, to get to know yourself, to make your acquaintance and discover what it is that challenges you, that makes you grow, that nurtures you. Get to know yourself and to celebrate the uniqueness of you. Self-nurturing begins with self-awareness. What are my needs? How can I grow? How am I feeling? What makes me happy? What am I passionate about? What do I need to learn in order to pursue my passion? And that inner talk really influences us. Are you gentle and loving, and do you give yourself constructive criticism, or are you harsh and belittling? I always think of that story where you drop an egg, and what's that initial voice that goes off in your head? Do you think, oh, I'm such a klutz? Or do you just think, no, I dropped an egg, I'll just clean it up and get another one? We truly are our own worst critic at times, and when you're automatically playing those old negative tapes, change them. Just imagine stop in your head, stop sign, and change those to patient and caring and loving tapes. Jack Kornfield said, as we willingly enter each place of fear, each place of deficiency and insecurity in ourselves, we will discover that its walls are made of untruths, of old images of ourselves, of ancient fears and false ideas of what is pure and what is not. So imagine if your inner dialogue sounded something like this. It's okay to make a mistake. My mistakes are perfect opportunities to learn and grow. I like who I am. My past does not control my future. Look at how much I have accomplished, and I am still making progress. I am a worthwhile and loving person. I'm not responsible for making other people okay. I choose to be a happy person. The other morning I woke up and I was feeling kind of grumpy, and Bob always gets the brunt of that. And so I went in the other room and I got out my meditation book and I read a quote by, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Arnaud Desjardins, and it said, there is nothing clever about not being happy. And it just made me laugh, especially at myself. So, you know, if you're alive and breathing and you're human, you're going to suffer. It depends on what we do with our suffering. You know, we can choose to let us make that bitter and resentful, or we can choose to make that more open and compassionate to other people's suffering. Self-nurturing is not about indulgence, and it often takes a lot of discipline. I learned a lot, and I continue to learn a lot about discipline from my husband and my son. I remember when I first met my spouse, I was so impressed by him. Well, at first I was annoyed. We'd be out and having fun, and he'd say, oh, I'm getting tired, I'd have to go home and go to bed. What? I'm still young. But he would take care of himself. He knew if he had to work the next day or whatever, he was going to get his rest so he could be the best that he could be. And our son is a really accomplished musician, and it's taken a lot of work for him to be that way. I remember once bragging about how talented he was, and he was much younger, and he overheard me. And later on he said to me, Mom, he said, I work really hard. And I thought, oh, I said, I'm sorry, I didn't acknowledge that. And my husband has recently learned to play guitar, and I'm just amazed at his discipline and how he practices every day. But it's important to him, and he's passionate about it. So if you care about yourself, you'll make wise choices, and those wise choices will prevent you from experiencing some unhealthy consequences. Recently, my husband read a book, and he pointed out to me, it's called The War of Art, and it's a very good book, and I encourage you to read it. But it's about the ways that we sabotage our own creativity and get in our own way. So I want you to think about your choices. You know, you may feel like eating another slab of cake, but what are you going to feel like about yourself later when you try on your summer clothing? Or you may want to help with one more project, but will you be spent? Will you have not having energy? Or if you choose to, do you choose to lie inert on the sofa, or do you feel like getting out there and going for a walk and enjoying the nice weather? So our choices are about what contributes to me being the best me that I can be. And how am I going to feel if I feel stagnant, if I don't get enough sleep? I remember when Elvis was really ill, and if we went out on a special outing for the day, and I noticed he'd start getting really cranky, and I think, God, what's wrong with him? And I look in the back seat, he'd be in this little car seat, just that fast. And I realized, oh, he didn't get his nap today. So take your naps if you need it. What am I going to be like if I don't take time that I need for solitude? So how available will I be for others if I'm not feeling good about myself? As parents, one of the most important things we do for our children is to set limits and establish routines. Children thrive on routines. Well, so do I. I have a morning ritual, and it's very necessary because I know that if I don't take care of myself, I won't be able to sustain the active listening that I have to do to be there for my clients, and that's very important to me. So I will get up very early. I begin steeping a big mug of tea, and while my tea is steeping, I'll do a yoga routine and then a quick meditation, and I'll really savor my tea, and then I'll walk to work. And so your nurturing doesn't have to be really complex. You don't have to go off on an exotic vacation. You can do it every day, just something simple. Savoring my tea in the morning, that makes me mindful. And Thich Nhat Hanh, a monk, said that drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the world revolves. Slowly, evenly, without rushing toward the future. He also said, walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. I like that one. So I find that being more fully in the moment helps me to be nurturing to myself and others. So that's why I meditate